What is up, guys? Slick Kackis here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today we are going to be discussing what I believe is the best experience farming method in Destiny 2 right now. You are capable of gaining, if the bounties are good, up to 2 million experience in a day, and if the bounties are bad, you're stuck with a sad 1.2 to 3 million experience. Obviously, the average is still insane. This is the way to grind those seasonal ranks and, most importantly, grind those power levels for your seasonal artifact. So, let's get started. But if you want to make those real gamer XP gains, you can't do so if you've fallen asleep. Check out Advanced GG. I'm partnering with them. Use code KackisHD for 10% off and get into those real gamer hours, if you know what I'm saying. All right. Now, for this method, we need to, if we're going to show how good this method is, we need to describe how it's better than the current most common experience farming method. So what most people are doing right now is they're picking a character, usually the Titan, because just how the Titan is, it can achieve a lot of bounties very quickly, it can chain melee kills and so on, but I digress. They pick a character, and they go to a certain location, let's say the moon, and they buy all of the bounties available, every single one, including the additional bounties. Then they go and do them. They complete them, they turn them in, they go back to Eris Morn, and they pick up more of those additional bounties. They go and complete them, come back, pick up more, go and complete them, rinse and repeat. You can spend all day going and completing those additional bounties with the little plus symbol, and as long as you're completing them, you can get more, and that is a pretty darn good way of getting experience. It's also, specifically if you go to the moon, pretty darn easy. But is it the most efficient? No, and that's because those additional bounties are not actually the best kind of bounties. And let's explain why by breaking down the experience you're going to gain per bounty. So this is at a base level. Obviously, if you have an experience increasing ghost, if you utilize shared wisdom by joining someone's fire team, all of that stuff, it's going to increase your experience. But at a base level, weekly bounties give 12,000 experience. Then daily bounties are worth 6,000 experience. And lastly, additional bounties are worth 4,000 experience. So additional bounties, daily bounties, they're not the same thing. And that's going to add up. You can do 2 daily bounties, and that's the equivalent of doing 3 additional bounties. And when you're handing in dozens and dozens of bounties in a full session of grinding, that is going to add up to quite a lot of missed experience. Not only that, but buying non-stop additional bounties is obviously pretty resource intensive at 3,000 glimmer a pop. And if the spider isn't selling glimmer for legendary shards, or you don't have legendary shards, you know, that first farming method isn't even an option to you. Not only that, but it turns out that the additional bounties are a little bit higher in terms of requirements than the daily bounties, in the sense that if you get, you know, a daily pulse rifle kill bounty, you're going to have to get something like 15 pulse rifle kills. But if you get it in the additional bounties, it's going to be like 30 pulse rifle kills. Now, that's not a huge difference, but again, in a very long session of grinding experience, those things do add up, that they're a little bit more troublesome to complete. So, because of all of these factors, it is most efficient in terms of experience grinding to maximize your daily bounties over just grinding non-stop additional bounties, as well as you're going to be able to incorporate a bunch more weekly bounties, which again are 12k a pop. Now, to do that as efficiently as possible, it's very, very important to do specific activities and totally avoid other suboptimal activities. So, what does this all look like? Well, we have a ranking of the best activities to do down to the worst that you still may want to do, but you can start to cut the bottom ones. This is what grinding with this method actually looks like. So first and foremost, you want to go to the tower and pick up some universal bounties. Mainly, those are going to be things like the gunsmith bounties. You can do that regardless of the activity you are completing. Then, you're going to want to do Vex Offensive. This is going to allow you to, still in the tower, go to Ikora Ray and grab a ton of bounties. There's 2 weekly bounties for Vex Offensive, there's a bunch of rotating daily bounties, and then of course there's the additional bounties. And although I'm saying additional bounties aren't all they're cracked up to be, obviously you still want to grab them if you can, they're just extra experience. Then go to the moon and grab all of Eris Morn's bounties. Except for the weekly ones, they require specific things, but all of her daily and additional bounties can also be completed in Vex Offensive because it counts Vex Offensive as being on the moon. So 30 auto rifle kills on the moon from Eris Morn, you can do that in Vex Offensive. Now, while you're doing Vex Offensive and completing both of these sets of bounties, you want to be playing for the bounties. This is going to be what you're wanting to do for all of the activities you're doing, but seriously, make sure you're looking at your bounties. Put on a sidearm to get those sidearm kills, put on a fusion rifle to get those fusion rifle kills. In fact, what I've done is I have like one of pretty much every weapon type available, a scout rifle, a sidearm, a fusion rifle, a shotgun, so I can just quickly switch. And as I'm completing those bounties, like if I'm using a sidearm, as soon as I see sidearm killer complete or whatever it's called, I'm switching weapons and I'm using something else. I'm trying to do as many bounties as possible in as quick of a time as possible. And usually in 1 to 2 Vex Offensive runs, I'm at a dozen plus bounties completed. Now, at this point, find a teammate. Seriously, get that shared wisdom buff, which comes from just being in another person's fire team, preferably someone who is further along in the seasons past. Their shared wisdom buff is going to be more substantial, but regardless, join someone. Even if you have to join some random blueberry on the moon that you don't know, just get into their party, get shared wisdom, pop all your bounties before they notice, and, yeet out into the night. But just get into someone's fire team, get shared wisdom, and you make sure to actually open your inventory and check that shared wisdom is applied. It's only applied sometimes in the tower, sometimes it doesn't work. It's not applied in orbit. You usually have to actually go to a certain destination like the moon, Tangled Shore, etc., and then pop all your bounties for that bonus experience. Now, this is the point where a lot of people would grab additional bounties from Eris and Ikora and keep grinding Vex Offensive, but as we've been over, that's not as efficient as maximizing daily bounties, so actually, we're switching to a new activity. Now we're doing strikes. This is the second most efficient thing for getting bounties. So, head to Zavala and grab all of those Vanguard strike bounties. There's going to be 2 weekly bounties, a bunch of dailies, and a bunch of additionals. And then, do some strikes. Importantly, you don't actually have to be in the strike playlist. If you're not concerned about your powerful, if you've already done it earlier in the week, you can just pick a certain strike from somewhere within the solar system. And this is important because you're likely going to have some specific bounties for killing specific enemies. There may be a weekly bounty where you have to kill a Vex boss, or a daily bounty where you have to kill Hive. So you can just select a strike that for sure has a Vex boss, or for sure has a lot of Hive in it, do that, and get a ton of your bounties done. Just like Vex Offensive, you are playing for the bounties. Be constantly switching weapons and trying to get all of them done, preferably in just one single strike, but likely it's going to take you like 2, and if you're trying to do the weeklies, a lot of them require 3 strike completions, but that's not so bad. So after you've done that and got the majority of bounties completed, remember that's important, majority. If you have 1 or 2 extra bounties that would require an entire other strike 1, probably not worth doing. Being efficient with your time is a huge part of what we're doing here, so doing a whole extra strike for Hive kills and 1 bounty, not worth it. But moving on, the next activity we're doing is criminally overlooked, and that is grinding planetary bounties. Seriously, every single planet has 3 fresh daily bounties every single day, and they're incredibly easy to do. Get 30 void kills, kill 30 enemies on Nessus, get 10 precision kills. They are a joke, so you can hop down to Earth, Io, Nessus, everywhere except for Mercury. Mercury has a lot of bounties that have to do with the Infinite Forest, and they're going to take you longer, so just ignore Mercury, but you can just hop from planet to planet and do a bunch of those 6K daily bounties super easily, super quickly. So what I usually do is do my strikes, get those bounties done, and then just do a bunch of planetaries and load up on the strike bounties and the planetary bounties. And once all those are completed, then I'll go into a random fire team and pop all those bounties and keep going. But actually, when I say keep going, this is a very important turning point, because you can either switch characters or continue with this character. If you want to continue, the next best activities to be doing are going to be, firstly, Gambit. There's a ton of bounties there, including some weekly bounties, and then Crucible. Now, if you don't like those modes, you're not great at PvP, whatever, you can switch characters. But those are the other two activities that are worth doing when you are on one character, maximizing those dailies, maximizing those weeklies, and getting a ton of experience. Now, very importantly, the activities to avoid include the Forsaken activities. For example, 801 and the Forge bounties, the Tangled Shore bounties, the Dreaming City bounties. Those are only going to award 1,000 experience each. Not worth your time whatsoever. Also, something that a lot of people grind that I would definitely avoid, nightmares. Nightmare hunts, actually, because of how little enemies that are in them and because of how the bounties are, they're going to take way longer than all these other activities to complete those bounties. Now, the one exception is you may want to go and pick up any of the nightmare bounties that just have to do with killing nightmares out in the world on the EDZ, whatever, because when you do those planetary bounties, you'll often be going into lost sectors and you can get some free nightmare kills and sometimes be completing those nightmare bounties. But other than that, don't grind nightmare hunts. But I digress. So either you're going to do Vex Offensive, then Strikes, then Planets, and then switch characters, or include Gambit and Crucible if you want to, and then switch characters. But that switching a character part is so important. You've got fresh weeklies, fresh dailies on that second character. They're all offering a ton of experience. So many people get tunnel vision and just stay on one character doing those additional bounties, but that is not what you want to do it. So switch characters for sure. It is definitely worth it, and then redo that order that we already explained with the activities. And if you can get those done and then switch characters again to your third character and do it again, that is the way you're going to achieve that 2 million insane experience gain in a day. If somehow you've done all of this, or again you're ignoring Crucible and Gambit, and you've done all three characters, this is now the time that you would switch to that just pure additional bounty grinding, but get those dailies done first. They're so much better. Prioritize those activities we talked about, especially the super overlooked planets, like be doing those. And guys, that is how you're gonna get your experience gains through the roof. I hope you enjoyed this video, found it informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.